Welcome. In this video, we're going on the Orient Express to the far corners, seeking the secrets of ancient mysticism to learn the art of meditation and how to empty the mind. I am Daisy, your hostess. The Secret of the Golden Flower, the classic Chinese book of life, is said to be a Chinese Taoist traditional medical textbook on Nidian, or, for a better word, inner alchemy meditation, which also mixes Buddhist teachings with some Confucian thoughts. The version I am sharing with you is translated by Thomas Cleary. Now, what is fascinating is that this book was not written by one specific person, so to speak. It was written by means of the spirit writing technique, also known as Fuji, through two groups in 1688 and 1692. Some of you may be familiar with spirit writing under the term of planchet writing. Spirit writing has a long history in Chinese folk religion, and seeking messages from the spirits is even older. Fuji is a religious practice in Chinese religions where messages from deities, ancestors, or spirits are conveyed through a wooden or metal stylus guided by a medium or a group of participants. The writing implement, or the stylus, is filled with sand or incense ash, where characters are then written on what they call an altar. The practice is documented as early as the Song dynasty and served as a method for connecting individuals or communities assembled at an altar with a particular deity. This practice is still used today. The meditation technique of the golden flower is set forth in poetic language. If you sit with the words, the understanding will reveal the how and the why of the practice. Yet, at its basic tenets, it reduces to a formula of sitting, breathing, and contemplating. Enjoy. The Secret of the Golden Flower, the classic Chinese book of life, translated by Thomas Cleary. Chapter 1. The Celestial Mind. Naturalness is called the way. The way has no name or form. It is just the essence, just the primal spirit. Essence and life are invisible, so they are associated with sky and light. Sky and light are invisible, so they are associated with the two eyes. Since ancient times, those who realized spiritual immortality all communicated their teachings verbally, transmitting it from individual to individual. Tai Shang appeared magically to Donghua, and the way was handed on through a succession to Yan, then to the southern and northern schools of complete reality, which can be considered its full flourishing. The movement flourished in the sense that there were a great many who followed it, yet it declined in the sense that its mental communication deteriorated. This has continued up to the present day, when it's extremely confused and extremely degenerate. When an extreme is reached, there is a reversion. Therefore, there was a certain master, Siu, who extended his kindness to liberate all, especially setting up the teaching of the special transmission outside of doctrine. For those who heard, it was a rare opportunity. Those who accepted it formed a religious association in their time. Everyone should respectfully understand the heart of Master Siu. First, establish a firm foothold in daily activities within society. Only then can you cultivate reality and understand essence. In obedience to a directive, I am acting as a guide to liberation. Now I am bringing to light the source message of the golden flower of absolute unity. After that, I will explain in detail. The absolute unity refers to what cannot be surpassed. There are very many alchemical teachings, but all of them make temporary use of effort to arrive at effortlessness. They are not teachings of total transcendence and direct penetration. The doctrine I transmit directly brings up working with essence and does not fall into a secondary method. That is the best thing about it. The golden flower is light. What color is light? It is symbolized by the golden flower, which in Chinese characters also conceals the words one light within. This is the absolutely unified real energy of celestial immortals. This is what is meant by the saying, the lead in the homeland of water is just one flavor. The whole work of turning the light around uses the method of reversal. The beauties of the highest heavens and the marvels of the sublimest realms are all within the heart. This is where the perfectly open and aware spirit concentrates. Confucians call it the open center. Buddhists call it the pedestal of awareness. Taoists call it the ancestral earth, the yellow court, the mysterious pass, the primal opening. The celestial mind is like a house. The light is the master of the house. Therefore, once you turn the light around, the energies throughout the body all rise. Just turn the light around. This is the unexcelled sublime truth. The light is easily stirred and hard to stabilize. When you have turned it around for a long time, the light crystallizes. This is the natural spiritual body, and it steadies the spirit above the 9 skies. This is what is referred to the mind seal scripture as silently paying court and soaring upward. The golden flower is the same thing as the gold pill. The transmutations of spiritual illumination are all guided by mind. Chapter 2. The original spirit and the conscious spirit. From the point of view of the universe, people are like mayflies, but from the point of view of the way, even the universe is as evanescent reflection. Only the true essence of the original spirit transcends the primal organization and is above it. Vitality and energy degenerate along with the universe, but the original spirit is still there. This is the infinite. The production of the universe all derives from this. If learners can just preserve the original spirit, they live transcendentally outside of yin and yang. They're not within the 3 realms. This is possible only by seeing essence. This is what is called the original face. What is most wondrous is when the light has crystallized in a spiritual body, gradually becoming consciously effective, and is on the verge of moving into action. This is the secret that has not been transmitted in 1,000 ages. The conscious mind is like a violent general of a strong fiefdom controlling things from a distance until the sword is turned around. Now steadily keep to the chamber of the origin, turning the light around to look back. And this is like having a heroic leader on top with great ministers helping. Once the inner government is orderly, the strong and violent naturally become tame. The highest secrets of alchemy are the water of vitality, the fire of spirit, and the earth of attention. The water of vitality is the energy of primal real unity. The fire of spirit is illumination. The earth of attention is the chamber of the center, the celestial mind. The fire of spirit is the function. The earth of attention is the substance. The water of vitality is the foundation. People create the body by attention. The body is not just the physical body, because there is a lower soul therein. The lower soul functions in association with consciousness, and consciousness develops based on the lower soul. The lower soul is dim. It is the substance of consciousness. If consciousness is not interrupted, transformation and transmutation of the lower soul go on endlessly from lifetime to lifetime, generation to generation. Then there is the higher soul, which is where the spirit is concealed. The higher soul resides in the eyes during the day and lodges in the liver at night. When it resides in the eyes, it sees. When it lodges in the liver, it dreams. Dreams are the roaming of the spirit. It traverses the 9 heavens and 9 earths in an instant. If you are dull and depressed on awakening, that is a sign of clinging to the body, which means clinging to the lower soul. So, turning the light around is a means of refining the higher soul, which is a means of preserving the spirit, which is a means of controlling the lower soul, which is a means of interrupting consciousness. The ancients' method of transcending the world, refining away the dregs of darkness to restore pure light, is just a matter of dissolving the lower soul and making the higher soul whole. Turning the light around is the secret of dissolving darkness and controlling the lower soul. There is no exercise to restore the creative, only the secret of turning the light around. The light itself is the creative. To turn it around is to restore it. Just persist in this method, and naturally the water of vitality will be full. The fire of spirit will ignite. The earth of attention will stabilize, and thus the embryo of sagehood can be solidified. A dung beetle rolls a pill of dung, from which life emerges, by the pure effort of concentration of spirit. If life can come even from a dung ball, how could it not be possible to produce a body by concentrating the spirit on where the celestial mind rests when the embryo leaves the shell? Once the true nature of unified awareness has fallen into the chamber of the creative, it divides into higher and lower souls. The higher soul is in the celestial mind. This is yang, energy that is light and clear. This is obtained from cosmic space and has the same form as the original beginning. The lower soul is yin, energy that is dense and opaque. This sticks to the ordinary mind that has form. The higher soul likes life. The lower soul looks toward death. All lust affecting the temperament is the doing of the lower soul. This is what consciousness is. After death, it feeds on blood. In life, it suffers greatly. This is darkness returning to darkness by coming together of kind. If learners refine the dark lower soul completely, then it will be pure light. Chapter 3. Turning the light around and keeping to the center. Where did the term turning the light around begin? It began with the adept Wenshi. When the light is turned around, the energies of heaven and earth, yin and yang, all congeal. This is what is called refined thought, pure energy, or pure thought. When you first put this technique into practice, there is seemingly non-being within being. Eventually, when the work is accomplished and there is a body beyond your body, there is seemingly being within non-being. Only after 100 days of concentrated work is the light real. Only then is it the fire of spirit. After 100 days, the light is spontaneous. A point of true positive energy suddenly produces a pearl, just as an embryo forms from the intercourse of a man and a woman. Then you should attend it calmly and quietly. The turning around of the light is the firing process. In the original creation, there is positive light, which is the ruling director. In the material world, it is the sun. In human beings, it is the eyes. Nothing is worse than to have a running leakage of spirit and consciousness. This is conformity. So the way of the golden flower is accomplished completely through the method of reversal. Turning the light around is not turning around the light of one body, but turning around the very energy of creation. It is not stopping random imagination only temporarily. It is truly emptying routine compulsion of all time. Therefore, each breath corresponds to 1 year of human time, and each breath corresponds to a century in the various pathways of the long night of ignorance. Usually people wind up pursuing objects and come to age in conformity with life, never once looking back. When their positive energy fades and disappears, this is the netherworld. Therefore, the heroic March scripture says, "Pure thought is flight, pure emotion is fall." When students have little thought and much emotion, they sink into low ways. Just observe clearly, and when your breath grows quiet, you then become accurately aware. This is application of the method of reversal. This is what is meant in the Yin Convergence Classic when it says the mechanism is in the eyes, and the plain questions of the Yellow Emperor when it says the light rays of the human body all flow upward into the aperture of space. If you get this, long life is herein, and so is transcendence of life. This is a practice that pervades the 3 teachings. The light is neither inside nor outside the self. Mountains, rivers, sun, moon, and the whole earth are all this light. So it is not only in the self. All the operations of intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom are also in this light. So it is not outside the self. The light of heaven and earth fills the universe. The light of one individual also naturally extends through the heavens and covers the earth. Therefore, once you turn the light around, everything in the world is turned around. The light rays are concentrated upward into the eyes. This is the great key of the human body. You should reflect on this. If you do not sit quietly each day, this light flows and whirls, stopping who knows where. If you can sit quietly for a while, all the time, 10,000 ages, 1,000 lifetimes is penetrated from this. All phenomena revert to stillness. Truly inconceivable is this sublime truth. Nevertheless, the actual practice goes from shallow to deep, from crude to fine. Throughout, it is best to be consistent. The practice is one from beginning to end, but its quality during the process can be known only by oneself. Nevertheless, it is necessary to wind up at the point where heaven is open, earth is broad, and all things are just as they are. For only this can be considered attainment. What has been communicated through successive sages is not beyond reversed gazing. Confucians call it reaching toward knowledge. Buddhists call it observing mind. Taoists call it inner observation. The essential teaching is summarized above. As for the rest matters of entering and exiting stillness, the prelude and the aftermath, one should use the book Small Stopping and Seeing for a touchstone. The words focus on the center are most sublime. The center is omnipresent. The whole universe is within it. This indicates the mechanism of creation. You focus on this to enter the gate, that is all. To focus means to focus on this as a hint, not to become rigidly fixated. The meaning of the word focus has life to it. It is very subtle. The terms stopping and seeing basically cannot be separated. They mean concentration and insight. Hereafter, whenever thoughts arise, you don't need to sit still as before, but you should investigate this thought. Where is it? Where does it come from? Where does it disappear? Push this inquiry on, over and over, until you realize it cannot be grasped. Then you will see where the thought arises. You don't need to seek out the point of arising anymore. Having looked for mind, I realize it cannot be grasped. I have pacified your mind for you. This is correct seeing. Whatever is contrary to this is false seeing. Once you reach this ungraspability, then as before you continuously practice stopping and continue it by seeing, practice seeing and continue it by stopping. This is twin cultivation of stopping and seeing. This is turning the light around. The turning around is stopping. The light is seeing. Stopping without seeing is called turning around without light. Seeing without stopping is called having light without turning around. Remember this. Chapter 4. Turning the light around and tuning the breathing. The doctrine just requires single-minded practice. One does not seek experiential proof, but experiential proof comes of itself. On the whole, beginners suffer from two kinds of problems, oblivion and distraction. There is a device to get rid of them, which is simply to rest the mind on the breath. The breath is one's own mind. One's own mind does the breathing. Once mind stirs, then there is energy. Energy is basically an emanation of mind. Our thoughts are very rapid. A single random thought takes place in a moment, whereupon an exhalation and inhalation respond to it. Therefore, inward breathing and outward breathing accompany each other like sound and echo. In a single day, one breathes countless times, so has countless random thoughts. When the luminosity of spirit has leaked out completely, one is like a withered tree or dead ashes. So should one have no thoughts? It is impossible to have no thoughts. Should one not breathe? It is impossible not to breathe. Nothing compares to making the affliction itself into medicine, which means to have mind and breath rest on each other. Therefore, tuning the breath should be included in turning the light around. This method makes use of two lights. One is the light of the ears, one is the light of the eyes. The light of the eyes means the external sun and moon combining their lights. The light of the ears means the internal sun and moon combining their vitalities. However, vitality is congealed and stabilized light. They have the same source but different names. Therefore, clarity of hearing and seeing are both one and the same spiritual light. When you sit, lower your eyelids and then establish a point of reference. Now let go. But if you let go absolutely, you may not be able to simultaneously keep your mind on listening to your breathing. You should not allow your breathing to actually be audible. Just listen to its soundlessness. Once there is sound, you are buoyed by the coarse and do not enter the fine. Then be patient and lighten up a little. The more you let go, the greater the subtlety, and the greater the subtlety, the deeper the quietude. Eventually, after a long time, all of a sudden, even the subtle will be interrupted and the true breathing will appear, whereupon the substance of mind will become perceptible. This is because when mind is subtle, breath is subtle. When mind is unified, it moves energy. When breath is subtle, mind is subtle. When energy is unified, it moves mind. Stabilization of mind must be preceded by development of energy because the mind has no place to set to work on. So focus on energy is used as a starting point. This is what is called the preservation of pure energy. You don't understand the meaning of the word movement. Movement is pulling the strings. The word movement is another word for control. Since you can cause movement by vigorous action, how could you not be able to cause stillness by pure quietude? The great sages saw the interrelation of mind and energy and skillfully set up an expedient for the benefit of people of later times. An alchemical text says, "The hen embraces the egg," always mentally listening. These are the finest instructions. The way a hen can give life to an egg is through warm energy. Warm energy can only warm the shell and cannot penetrate the inside, so she mentally conducts the energy inward. That listening is single-minded concentration. When the mind centers, the energy enters. With warm energy, the birth takes place. Therefore, even though the mother hen goes out from time to time, she is always listening, and the concentration of her spirit is never interrupted. Since the concentration of the spirit is never interrupted, then the warm energy is also uninterrupted day and night, so the spirit comes alive. The life of the spirit comes from the prior death of the mind. If people can kill the mind, the original comes alive. Killing the mind does not mean quietism. It means undivided concentration. Buddha said, "Place the mind on one point, and everything can be done." If the mind tends to run off, then unify it by means of the breath. If the breath tends to become rough, then use the mind to make it fine. If you do this, how can the mind fail to stabilize? Generally speaking, the two afflictions of oblivion and distraction just require quieting practice to continue unbroken day after day until complete cessation and rest occur spontaneously. When you're not sitting quietly, you may be distracted without knowing it, but once you are aware of it, distraction itself becomes a mechanism for getting rid of distraction. As for unawares, oblivion, and oblivion of which you become aware, there is an inconceivable distance between them. Unawares oblivion is real oblivion. Oblivion that you notice is not completely oblivious. Clear light is in this. Distraction means the spirit is racing. Oblivion means the spirit is unclear. Distraction is easy to cure. Oblivion is hard to heal. Using the metaphor of illness, one that involves pain or itch can be treated with medicine, but oblivion is a symptom of paralysis, where there is no feeling. A distracted mind can be concentrated, and a confused mind can be set in order, but oblivion is unformed darkness, in contrast to distraction, which still has some direction. Oblivion means the lower soul is in complete control, whereas the lower soul is a lingering presence in distraction. Oblivion is ruled by pure darkness and negativity. When you are sitting quietly, if you become drowsy, this is oblivion. Repelling oblivion is simply a matter of tuning the breath. The breath in this case is respiration, not the true breathing. Nevertheless, the true breathing is present within it. Whenever you sit, you should quiet your mind and unify your energy. How is the mind quieted? The mechanism is in the breathing, but the mind alone knows you are breathing out and in. Do not let the ears hear. When you don't hear it, the breathing is fine. And when breathing is fine, the mind is clear. If you can hear it, the breathing is rough, which means the mind is cloudy. Cloudiness means oblivion, so it is natural to feel sleepy. Even so, the mind should be kept on the breathing. It is also essential to understand that this device is not mechanical or forced. Just maintain a subtle looking and listening. What is looking? It is the light of the eyes spontaneously shining. The eyes only looking inward and not outward. Not looking outward, yet being alert is inward looking. It is not that there really is such a thing as looking inward. What is listening? It is the light of the ears spontaneously listening. The ears only listening inward and not outward. Not listening outward, yet being alert is inward listening. It is not that there really is such a thing as listening inward. Listening means listening to the soundless. Looking means looking at the formless. When the eyes do not look outside and the ears do not listen outside, they are closed in and have a tendency to race around inside. Only by inward looking and listening can you prevent this inner racing as well as oblivion in between. This is the meaning of sun and moon, combining their vitalities and lights. When you sink into oblivion and become drowsy, get up and take a walk. When your spirit has cleared, sit again. It's best to sit for a while in the early morning when you have free time. Afternoon time, when there are many things to do, it's easy to fall into oblivion. Also, there's no need to fix the length of time of meditation. It is only essential to set aside all involvements and sit quietly for a while. Eventually, you will attain absorption and not become oblivious or sleepy. Chapter 5. Errors in turning the light around. Even though your practice gradually matures, there are many pitfalls in front of the cliff of withered trees. This makes it necessary to elucidate the experiences involved in detail. Only when you have personally gotten this far do you know how I can talk of it now. Our school is not the same as Chan study in that we have step-by-step evidences of efficacy. Let us first talk about points of distinction, then about evidences of efficacy. When you're going to practice this doctrine, first see to it somehow that you don't have much on your mind, so that you can be alive and free. Make your mood gentle and your mind comfortable, then enter into quietude. When you are quiet, it is then essential to find potential and find its opening. Don't sit inside nothingness or indifference, so-called neutral voidness. Even as you let go of all objects, you are alert and self-possessed. But don't get enthusiastic about attaining the experience. This easily happens whenever reality is taken too seriously. That means not that you shouldn't recognize reality, but that the rhythm of reality is on the brink of existence and non-existence. You can get it by intent that is not willful. Even in the midst of alert awareness, you are relaxed and natural, but don't fall into the elements of body and mind, where material and psychological illusions take charge. If you tend to fall into a deadness whenever you go into a meditation and are relatively lacking in growth and creative energy, this means you have fallen into a shadow world. Your mood is cold, your breath sinking, and you have a number of other chilling and withering experiences. If you continue this way for a long time, you will degenerate into a blockhead or a rockhead. And yet it will not do to go along with all conditions. Once you have gone into quietude and all sorts of loose ends come to you for no apparent reason, you find you cannot turn them away if you want to, and you even feel comfortable going along with them. This is called the master becoming the servant. If this goes on long, you fall into the various roads of the realms of form and desire. Once you know this, you can seek experiential proofs. Chapter 6. Authenticating experiences of turning the light around. There are many authenticating experiences that cannot be undergone responsibly by people with small faculties and small capacities. You must will the liberation of all beings. You cannot handle attainment with a careless or arrogant attitude. When there is uninterrupted continuity in quiet, the spirit and feelings are joyful and happy, as if one were intoxicated or in a bath. This is called positive harmony pervading the body, its golden efflorescence suddenly blooming. Once myriad pipes are all silent, and the bright moon is in mid-sky, you feel the whole earth as a realm of light. This is the opening up of the luminosity that is the substance of mind, the proper release of the golden flower. Once the whole body is filled completely, you do not fear wind or frost. When you meet things that make people feel desolate in facing them, your vital spirit shines even brighter. The house is built of yellow gold. The terrace is white jade. The rotten things of the world you bring to life with a puff of true energy. Red blood becomes milk. The physical body is all gold and jewels. This is the great stabilization of the golden flower. The first stage corresponds to the visualization scriptures, technical symbols of the setting sun, the great body of water, and the trees in rows. The setting of the sun stands for setting up the foundation in the undifferentiated. This is the infinite. Higher good is like water, flawlessly pure. This is the ultimate. The master is the ruler that produces movement, and since movement is symbolized by wood, it is represented by trees in rows. The rows are in sevens, which stands for the light of the seven openings of the heart. The second stage begins from the foundation. At this point, the whole earth becomes a jewel, ground of ice crystals. The light gradually solidifies. Therefore, great terrace follows. As for the Buddha on the terrace of enlightenment, once the golden essence has become manifest, what is it if not the Buddha? Buddha is the gold immortal of great awareness. This is just the authenticating experience of the major stage. There are 3 authenticating experiences that can now be considered. One is when you are sitting and the spirit enters into a state of openness. And then when you hear people talking, it is as though from far away. But everything is clearly understood, even though all sounds coming in are like echoes in a valley. All are heard. You have never heard anything yourself. This is the spirit in a state of openness. It can be experienced by oneself at any time. Another experience is when, in the midst of quiet, the light of the eyes blazes up, filling one's presence with light. It is like opening the eyes in a cloud. There is no way to look for one's body. This is the empty room producing light. Inside and outside are permeated with light. Auspicious signs hover in stillness. Yet another experience is when, in the midst of quiet, the energy of the physical body becomes like silk or jade. While sitting, if you don't stop it, the energy will soar buoyantly upward. This is the spirit returning to the highest heaven. Eventually, after a long time, it is thereby possible to ascend. These 3 experiences can be verified now, but it is still not possible to explain them thoroughly. People experience higher things individually, according to their faculties and capacities. This is like what stopping and seeing calls the emerging manifestations of roots of good. These things are like when people drink water and know for themselves whether it is cool or warm. It is necessary for you to attain faith on your own. Only then is the true primal unified energy present. If you find the unified energy yourself in authenticating experience, the elixir immediately crystallizes. This is a grain of reality, a grain and then another grain, from vagueness to clarity. This refers to the primal grain that builds up through time. There is also the total primal grain, which is measureless. Each grain has a grain's power. This requires individual fortitude above all. Chapter 7. The living method of turning the light around. As you go along practicing turning the light around, you need not give up your normal occupation. An ancient said, "When matters come up, one should respond. When things come up, one should discern." If you manage affairs with accurate mindfulness, then the light is not overcome by things, so it will do to repeat this formless turning around of the light time and again. If you can look back again and again into the source of mind, whatever you're doing, not sticking to any image of person or self at all, then this is turning the light around wherever you are. This is the finest practice. In the early morning, if you can clear all objects from your mind and sit quietly for 1 or 2 hours, that is best. Whenever you are engaged in work or dealing with people, just use this looking back technique, and there will be no interruption. If you practice in this way for 2 or 3 months, the realized ones in heaven will surely come to attest to your experience. Chapter 8. The Secret of Freedom. Jade-like purity has left a secret of freedom in the lower world. Congeal the spirit in the layer of energy, and you'll suddenly see white snow flying in midsummer, the sun blazing in the water at midnight. Going along harmoniously, you roam in the heavens, then return to absorb the virtues of the receptive. There is another line, a mystery within a mystery. The homeland of nothing whatsoever is the true abode. The depths of the mystery are all contained in a single measured verse. The essence of the Great Way is to act purposefully without striving. Because of non-striving, one does not cling to local conventions, forms, or images. But because of not striving yet acting purposefully, one does not fall into indifferent emptiness, dead voidness. The function is all in the center, but the mechanism is all in the 2 eyes. The 2 eyes are the handle of the stars which manages creation and operates yin and yang. The major medicinal ingredient beginning to end is only the metal in the middle of primary water, i.e., the lead in the region of water. The preceding talk of turning the light around points out a method for beginners to control the inside from outside, thus helping them to attain independence. This is for middling and lesser people cultivating the lower 2 passes in order to penetrate the upper passes. Now, as the way gradually becomes clear and mastery of the device gradually matures, heaven does not begrudge the way, but directly divulges the unsurpassed doctrine. Keep it confidential and work it out. Turning the light around is only the general term. With each level of progress in practice, the efflorescence of the light increases in magnitude, and the method of turning around becomes subtler. Previously, one controlled the inside from the outside. Now one abides in the center and controls the outside. Before, the assistant administered for the master. Now, one promulgates policy in service of the master. There has manifestly been a great reversal. When you want to enter quietude, first tune and concentrate body and mind so that they are free and peaceful. Let go of all objects so that nothing whatsoever hangs on your mind, and the celestial mind takes its rightful place in this center. After that, lower your eyelids and gaze inward at the chamber of water, where the light reaches. True positive energy comes forth in response. Fire is yang, outside, and yin, inside. So it is in substance the creative, with one yin inside ruling it, arousing mind according to things, going along out into habitual routines. Now when you turn the light around to shine inward, the mind is not aroused by things. Negative energy then stops, and the flower of light radiates a concentrated glow, which is pure positive energy. Correlates inevitably associate, so the positivity in water leaps up, whereupon it is not the positivity in water, but just the positivity in the creative itself, responding to the positivity in the creative. Once the two things meet, they join inextricably, the living movement of creative energy now coming, now going, now floating, now sinking. In the basic chamber in oneself, there is an ungraspable sense of vast space beyond measure, and the whole body feels wondrously light and buoyant. This is what is called clouds filling the 1,000 mountains. Next, the coming and going is traceless. The floating and sinking are indiscernible. The channels are stilled, energy stops. This is true intercourse. This is what is called the moon steeped in myriad waters. When the celestial mind first stirs in the midst of that utter darkness of the unknown, this is the return of initial positive energy. This is living midnight. So what transpires at this point should be explained in detail. Ordinarily, once people let their eyes and ears pursue things, they get stirred up, only to stop when things are gone. This activity and rest are all subjects, but the sovereign ruler becomes their slave. This is always living with ghosts. Now, if in all activity and rest you abide in heaven while in the midst of humanity, the sovereign is then the real human being. When it moves, you move with it. The movement is the root of heaven. When it is at rest, you rest with it. The rest is the moon cavern. If the celestial mind keeps still and you miss the right timing in action, then that is an error of weakness. If you act in response to it after the celestial mind has acted, this is an error of staleness. Once the celestial mind stirs, then use pure attention to raise it up to the chamber of the creative, with the light of spirit focused on the crown of the head to guide it. This is acting in time. When the celestial mind has risen to the peak of the creative, it floats upward of its own accord, then suddenly verges on utter quiescence. Immediately use pure attention to conduct it into the yellow court, as the light of the eyes is focused on the spiritual room in the center. Once about to enter quiescence, not a single thought is born. When gazing inward, suddenly one forgets the gazing. At that time, body and mind are in a state of great freedom, and all objects disappear without a trace. Then you don't even know where the furnace and cauldron in your spiritual room are. You can't even find your own body. This is the time when heaven enters earth, and all wonders return to the root. This is solidifying the spirit in the layer of energy. When you first practice turning the light around and your mind gets scattered or distracted, so you want to concentrate it, your 6 senses are not used. This is called nurturing the root source, adding fuel to continue life. Once concentration is attained, you are naturally buoyant and do not expend any strength. This is called settling the spirit in the original openness, gathering the primal together. When even shadows and echoes have all disappeared, and one is highly stabilized in profound tranquility, this is called hibernating in the layer of energy, all wonders returning to the root. These 3 stages are in each stage, so there are 9 stages in one stage. I will expound upon that later. For now, I will speak of 3 stages in one. During the nurturing and initial quieting, gathering is also nurturing, and hibernating is also nurturing. At the end, nurturing is also hibernating. The stage in between can be figured out by analogy. You do not change places, but places are distinguished therein. This is the formless opening where all places are one place. You do not change times, but times are distinguished therein. This is time without a period, an interval of a world cycle of the original organization. As long as the mind has not reached supreme quiet, it cannot act. Action caused by momentum is random action, not essential action. Therefore, it is said that action influenced by things is human desire, while action uninfluenced by things is the action of heaven. This does not contrast the action of heaven to the nature of heaven. There's a line missing. After this, I'll explain the word desire. Desire is in considering things to exist or being possessive toward things. This is thought that is out of place, action with an ulterior motive. When not a single thought arises, then true mindfulness is born. This is pure attention. When the celestial potential is suddenly activated in the midst of silent trance, is this not spontaneous attention? This is what is meant by acting without striving. The first 2 lines of the verses at the beginning of this chapter wrap up the fiction of the golden flower. The next 2 lines refer to the interchange of sun and moon. Midsummer stands for the fire of the trigrammatic Book of Change symbol, fire. The white snow is the true yin within fire about to return to earth. Midnight is the water of water. The sun is the single yang in the center of water on the verge of blazing and returning to heaven. Herein lies the operation of spirit alchemy, known as talking from water to fill in fire. The next 2 lines explain the function of the dipper handle, the whole mechanism of rising and descending. Does not in the water refer to water? The eyes as the breeze of wind shine into the chamber of water and beckon the vitality of dominant yang. That is what these lines mean. In the heavens refers to the chamber of the creative, roaming and returning to absorb the virtues of the receptive, means nurturing the fire. The last 2 lines point out the secret within the secret. The secret within the secret cannot be dispensed with from start to finish. This is what is called cleaning the mind, washing the thoughts, which is bathing. The learning of sages begins with knowing when to stop and ends with stopping at ultimate good. It begins in the infinite and winds up in the infinite. In Buddhism, activating the mind without dwelling on anything is considered the essential message of the whole canon. In Taoism, effecting openness is the whole work of completing essence and life. In some, the 3 teachings are not beyond one saying, which is a spiritual pill that gets one out of death and preserves life. What is the spiritual pill? It just means to be unminding in all situations. The greatest secret in Taoism is bathing. Thus, the whole practice described in this book does not go beyond the words emptiness of mind. It is enough to understand this. This single statement can save decades of seeking. If you do not understand how 3 stages are included in one, for an analogy, Let me use the Buddhist teaching of contemplating emptiness, the conditional and the center. First is emptiness. You see all things as empty. Next is the conditional. Though you know things are empty, you do not destroy the totality of things, but take a constructive attitude toward all events in the midst of emptiness. Once you neither destroy things nor cling to things, this is the contemplation of the center. When you are practicing the contemplation of emptiness, if you still know that the totality of things cannot be destroyed, and yet do not cling to them, this includes all three contemplations. Since empowerment, after all, means really seeing emptiness, when you cultivate contemplation of emptiness, emptiness is empty. The conditional is also empty, and the center is empty too. In practicing contemplation of the conditional, much of the empowerment is attained in action. So while the conditional is, of course, conditional, emptiness is also conditional, and the center is conditional too. When on the way of the center, you still meditate on the emptiness, but you don't call it emptiness, you call it the center. You also meditate on the conditional, but you don't call it the conditional, you call it the center. When you come to the center, there is no need to say. Although I sometimes speak only of fire, sometimes I also speak of water. Ultimately, they have never moved. With one saying, I open my mouth. The essential mechanism is all in the two eyes. The mechanism means the function. You use this to manage creation. This does not mean that is all there is to creation. All the faculties of sense and mind are minds of light. So how could we presume to take only the two eyes and not deal with the rest? To use the yang of water, you use the light of fire to illumine and absorb it. This shows that the sun and moon are originally one thing. The darkness in the sun is the vitality of the true moon. The moon cavern is not on the moon, but on the sun. That is why it is called the moon cavern, for otherwise it would be enough just to say the moon. The white of the moon is the light of the true sun. The sunlight being on the moon is what is called the root of heaven. Otherwise it would be enough just to say heaven. When the sun and moon are separated, they are but half. Only when they come together do they form a whole. This is like the case of a single man or a single woman who cannot form a family living alone. Only when they are husband and wife do they amount to a family. But it is hard to represent the way concretely. If a man and a woman are separated, they are still individuals, but if the sun and moon are separated, they do not form a complete whole. What I am saying just brings out the point of communion. So I do not see duality. You just cling to the separation, so the separation has taken over your eyes. Chapter 9. Setting up the foundation in 100 days. One of the Mind Seal scriptures says, the returning wind mixes together. The 100 days' work is effective. On the whole, to set up the foundation requires 100 days before you have real light. As you are still working with the light of the eyes, not the fire of spirit, not the fire of essence, not the torch of wisdom. Turn it around for 100 days, and the vital energy will naturally be sufficient for true yang to rise spontaneously, so that there is true fire naturally existing in water. If you carry on the practice this way, you will naturally achieve intercourse and formation of the embryo. You are then in the heaven of unknowing, and the child thus develops. If you entertain any conceptual view at all, this is immediately a misleading path. 100 days setting up the foundation is not 100 days. 1 day setting up the foundation is not 1 day. 1 breath setting up the foundation does not refer to respiration, but breath is one's own mind. One's own mind is the breath's original spirit, original energy, and original vitality, rising and descending, parting and joining, all arise from mind. Being and non-being, emptiness and fullness are all in the thoughts. One breath is held for a lifetime, not only 100 days. So 100 days is also a single breath. The 100 days is just a matter of empowerment. Gain power in the daytime, and you use it at night. Gain power at night, and you use it in the daytime. The 100 days, setting up the foundation, is a precious teaching. The sayings of the advanced, realized ones all relate to the human body. The saying of true teachers all relate to students. This is the mystery of mysteries, which is inscrutable. When you see essence, you then know why students must seek the direction of a true teacher. Everything that emerges naturally from essence is tested. Chapter 10. The light of essence and the light of consciousness. The method of turning the light around is basically to be carried on whether walking, standing, sitting, or reclining. It is only essential that you yourself find the opening of potential. Previously, I quoted the saying, "Light arises in the empty room." This light is not luminous, but there is an explanation of this as an evidence of efficacy in the beginning before one has seen the light. If you see it as light and fix your attention on it, then you fall into ideational consciousness, which is not the light of essence. Now, when the mind forms a thought, this thought is the present mind. This mind is light. It is medicine. Whenever people look at things, when they perceive them spontaneously all at once without discriminating, this is the light of essence. It is like a mirror reflecting without intending to do so. In a moment, it becomes the light of consciousness through discrimination. When there is an image in a mirror, there is no more mirroring. When there is consciousness in the light, then what light is there anymore? At first, when the light of essence turns into thought, then it is consciousness. When consciousness arises, the light is obscured and cannot be found. It is not that there is no light, but that the light has become consciousness. This is what is meant by the saying of the Yellow Emperor, "When sound moves, it does not produce sound. It produces echoes." The introduction to logical examination in the Heroic March scriptures says, "Neither in objects nor in consciousness," only picking out the organ. What does this mean? Objects are external things or the so-called material world. This has no actual connection with us. If you pursue objects, you're mistaking things for yourself. Things must have an attribution. Transmission of light is attributable to doors and windows. Light is attributable to the sun and moon. Borrowing them for myself, after all, I find it is not mine. When it comes to where it is not you, then who attributes if not you? Light is attributable to the sun and moon. When you see the light of the sun and moon, there's nothing to attribute it to. Sometimes there is no sun or moon in the sky, but there is never an absence of the essence of seeing that sees the sun and moon. If so, then can that which discriminates sun and moon be considered one's own possession? Don't you know that discrimination is based on light and dark? When both light and dark are forgotten, then where is discrimination? Therefore, there is still attribution. This is an internal object. Only the seeing essence cannot be attributed to anything. But if when seeing is not seeing, then the seeing essence also has an attribution, which refers back to the seeing essence of the revolving flow of consciousness, alluded to in Buddhist scripture, where it says, "Using your flowing, revolving consciousness is called error." When first practicing the 8 attributions for discerning perception, the first 7 show how each is attributable to something, temporarily leaving the seeing essence as a crutch for the practitioner. But ultimately, as long as the seeing essence still carries with it the 8th consciousness, it is not really unattributable. Only when this last point is broken through this, the real seeing essence, which is truly unattributable. When turning the light around, you properly turn around the primary unattributable light, so not a single conscious thought is applied. What causes you to flow and revolve is just the 6 sense organs, but what enables you to attain enlightenment is also just the 6 sense organs. But the fact that sense objects and sense consciousness are not used at all does not mean using the sense organs, just using the essence in the sense organs. Now, if you turn the light around without falling into consciousness, you're using the original essence in the sense organs. If you turn the light around falling into consciousness, then you use the nature of consciousness in the sense organs. Herein lies the hair's breadth's distinction. Deliberate meditation is the light of consciousness. Let go, and it is then the light of essence. A hair's breadth's difference is as that of 1,000 miles, so discernment is necessary. If consciousness is not stopped, spirit does not come alive. If mind is not emptied, the elixir does not crystallize. When mind is clean, that is elixir. When mind is empty, that is medicine. When it doesn't stick to anything at all, it is said that the mind is clean. When it doesn't keep anything in it, it is said that the mind is empty. If emptiness is seen as empty, emptiness is still not empty. When empty and mindless of emptiness, this is called true emptiness. Chapter 11, the Intercourse of Water and Fire. Whenever you leak vital spirit, being stirred and interacting with beings, that is all fire. Whenever you gather spirit's consciousness and quiet it down to steep in the center, that is all water. When the senses run outward, that is fire. When the senses turn around inward, that is water. The one yin inside the fire trigram concentrates on pursuing sense experience, while the one yang inside the water trigram concentrates on reversing and withdrawing the sense themselves. Water and fire are yin and yang. Yin and yang are essence and life. Essence and life are body and mind. Body and mind are spirit and energy. Once you withdraw to rest your vital spirit and are not influenced by objects, then this is true intercourse, as of course when you sit in profound silence. Chapter 12, the cycle. For the complete cycle, energy is not the main thing. Mental attainment is the sublime secret. If you wonder what is ultimately is, the cycle helps growth. It is maintained without minding, carried out without deliberate intention. Look up at the sky. It changes from hour to hour, through 365 days, yet the polar star never moves. Our mind is also like this. Mind is the pole. Energy is the myriad stars revolving around it. The energy in our limbs and throughout our whole body is basically a network, so do not exert your strength to the full on it. Refine the conscious spirit, remove arbitrary views, and then after that medicine will develop. This medicine is not a material thing. It is the light of essence, which is none other than the primal true energy. Even so, it is necessary to attain great concentration before you see it. There is no method of culling. Those who speak of culling are quite mistaken. When you have seen it for a long time, eventually the light of the basis of the mind becomes spontaneous. When the mind is empty and all indulgence is ended, you are liberated from the ocean of misery. If it is dragon and tiger today, water and fire tomorrow, in the end they turn into illusions. There is a cycle in each day. There is a cycle in each hour. Where water and fire interact, this is a cycle. Our interaction is the revolving of heaven. As long as you are unable to stop the mind directly, as a consequence, there are times of interaction and times of non-interaction. Yet the revolving of heaven never stops for a moment. If you are actually able to join yin and yang in tranquility, the whole earth is positive and harmonious. In the right place, in your central chamber, all things simultaneously expand to fulfillment. This is the method of bathing, spoken of in alchemical classics. What is it if not the great cycle? The process of the cycle do indeed have differences of scale, but ultimately there is no way to distinguish great and small. When you reach the point where meditation is spontaneous, you do not know what fire and water are, what heaven and earth are, who does the interacting, who makes it one cycle or two cycles, or where to find any distinction between great and small. It is all the operation of one body. Though it appears to be most great, it is also small. Each time it takes a turn, the universe and all things take a turn with it. Thus it is in the heart, so it is also most great. The alchemical process should ultimately become spontaneous. If it is not spontaneous, then heaven and earth will revert on their own to heaven and earth. Myriad things will go back to myriad things. No matter how hard you try to join them, you cannot. Then it is like a season of drought, when yin and yang do not join. Heaven and earth do not fail to go through their cycles every day, but ultimately you see a lot that is unnatural. If you can operate yin and yang, turning them suitably, then naturally all at once clouds will form and rain will fall, the plants and trees refreshed, the mountain rivers flowing freely. Even if there is something offensive, it still melts away all at once when you notice it. This is the great cycle. Students ask about living midnight. This is very subtle. If you insist on defining it as true midnight, that would seem to be sticking to forms. But if you do not focus on forms and do not point out true midnight, by what means can the living midnight be known? Once you know living midnight, there is definitely also true midnight. Are there one or two? Not true or not alive? It all requires you to see the real. Once you see the real, everything is true. Everything is alive. If your seeing is not real, what is living? What is true? As for living midnight, when you see it at all times, finally you reach true midnight. Your mood is clear and light, and living midnight gradually blooms into ever greater awareness. At present, people do not yet clearly know the living. Just test it out when you head for the true, and the true will appear, while the living will be sublime. Chapter 13, Song to Inspire the World. Because of the warmth of my cinnabar heart to liberate the world, I do not refrain from coddling and talking a lot. Buddha also pointed directly to life and death for a great cause, and this is truly worthwhile. Lao Tzu also lamented the existence of the egotistic self and transmitted the teaching of the open spirit, but people did not discern. Now I give a general explanation of finding the road of truth. The pervasive principle of the center bears universal change. The very being of true poise is the mysterious pass. Midnight, noon, and in between, if you can stabilize breathing, the light returns to the primal opening, so all the psychic functions are calm. There emerges the unified energy of the river source that produces the medicine. It passes through the screen and transmutes with golden light. The single disk of the red sun shines with constant brilliance. People of the world misconstrue the vitalities, water and fire, conveying them from heart and genitals, thus producing separation. How can the human way meet the celestial mind? If in accord with the celestial, the way is naturally meet. Put down all objects so nothing comes to mind. This is the true infinity of the primal. Cosmic space is silent. Signs are gone. At the pass of essence and life, you forget conceptual consciousness. After the conceptual consciousness is forgotten, you see basic reality. The water-clarifying pearl appears, mysterious and unfathomable. The screen of beginningless afflictions avoided all at once. The jade capital sends down a team of 9 dragons. Walking in the sky, you climb to the gateway of heaven. Controlling wind and lightning, you make the thunder rumble. Freezing the spirit and steadying breath are for beginners. Retreating to hide in secrecy is eternal calm. The 2 poems I used when I initiated Zhang Zhenyu long ago both contain the Great Way. After midnight and before noon are not times, but water and fire. Settling the breath means a state of centeredness in which you go back to the root with each breath. Sitting means that the mind is unmoved, the mind spine where the ribs join. Does not refer to vertebrae. It is the great road directly through to the jade capital. As for the double pass, there's something ineffable in this. Thunder in the earth rumbles. Setting into motion rain on the mountain means the rising of true energy. The yellow sprouts emerging from the ground refer to the growth of the medicine. These 2 little verses are exhaustive. In them, the highway of practical cultivation is clear. These are not confusing words. Turning the light around is a matter of single-minded practice. Just use the true breathing for stable awareness in the central chamber. After a long time at this, you will naturally commune with the spirit and attain transmutation. This is all based on quieting of mind and stabilization of energy. When the mind is forgotten and the energy congeals, this is a sign of effectiveness. The emptiness of energy, breath, and mind is the formation of the elixir. The unification of mind and energy is incubation. Clarifying the mind and seeing its essence is understanding the way. You should each practice diligently. It would be too bad if you wasted time. If you do not practice for a day, then you are a ghost for a day. If you do practice for a single breath, then you are realized immortal for a breath. Work on this. Questions and answers, opening up the mysteries of the doctrine of the golden flower. You suppose that attainment is possible in quietude, but lost in activity. You do not realize that the reason for loss through activity is because nothing is attained through stillness. When you attain nothing in quietude or lose anything through activity, in either case you have not yet reached the way. When you keep presence of mind, only then do you have autonomy. When you have autonomy, only then can you manage affairs. However, presence of mind is easily interrupted. Practice it for a long time, though, and it will naturally become unbroken. Once it is unbroken, it is continuous. With continuity, the light shines bright. When the light shines bright, energy is full. When energy is full, then oblivion and distraction disappear without effort. Observing mind means observing the purity of mind. The mind is basically non-dual, just one vital reality. Throughout the past and future, there is no other. Without leaving the objects of sense, you climb transcendent to the stage of enlightenment. But observation of mind can be deep or shallow. There is forced observation and there is spontaneous observation. There is observation outside of sense objects. There is observation within sense objects. There is observation that is neither internal nor external. There is panoramic observation. With what observation do you observe mind? When observation is deep, an illusion is cleared. Then this is true emptiness. Turning the light around is done not by the eyes but by the mind. The mind is the eyes. After long persistence, the spirit congeals. Only then do you see the mind eyes become clear. When you observe mind and become aware of openness, thereby you produce its vitality. When its vitality stabilizes, it becomes manifest, and then you see the opening of the mysterious paths. Gazing at the lower abdomen is external work. As for the inner work, when the mind eye comes into being, that alone is the true elixir field. The light you see before your eyes is rat light, not the light of the tiger eye or dragon vitality. The light of mind does not belong to inside or outside. If you look to see it with the physical eyes, that is bedevilment. You have been affected by pollution for so long that it is impossible to become clear at once. In truth, the matter of life and death is important. Once you turn the light around and recollect the vital spirit to shine stably, then your own mind is the lamp of enlightenment. Everyone already has the lamp of mind, but it is necessary to light it so that it shines. Then this is immortality. Don't let yourselves forget the mind and allow the spirit to be obscured. If you have no autonomy, your vital spirit diffuses. Forms are all conditioned. Cognition is a function of mind. Empty silence is the substance of mind. If you fix the mind on anything conditioned, then temperament is in control, so you cannot govern it completely or comprehend it thoroughly. The minor technique of circulating energy can enhance the body so as to extend the lifespan. But if you therefore suppose that the Great Way requires work on the physical body, this is a tangential teaching. External work has no connection to the Great Way. The true practice of the Great Way first requires that vitality be transformed into energy. As alchemical literature has clearly explained, this vitality is not sexual. Refining energy into spirit means keeping the clear and removing the polluted. Few are those who are calm and serious. Rare are those who are sincere and unified. Radiant light is the function of mind. Empty silence is the substance of mind. If there is empty silence without radiant light, the silence is not true silence. The emptiness is not true emptiness. It is just a ghost cave. The breathing that passes through the nose is external breathing, which is a phenomenon of the physical body. Only when mind and breathing rest on each other is this the true breath. The Venerable Prajnatara, considered the 27th Indian ancestor of Chan Buddhism, said, "Breathing out, I do not follow myriad objects. Breathing in, I do not dwell on the elements of body or mind." Is this the nose? When it comes to watching the breathing or listening to the breathing, these are still connected with the physical body. These are used to concentrate the mind and are not the real lifeline. The real lifeline is to be sought from within the real. Looking and listening are one thing. The three realms are none other than your mind. Your mind is not the three realms, yet it contains the three realms. Whenever there is dependence that is temporal, Where there is no dependence, that is primal. Where is the primal to be sought? It must be sought by way of the temporal. Temporal feelings and consciousness are marvelous functions of the primal. It must be sought through the work of practical balance in harmonious accord, which means calmness and openness. Of course, as long as clarification has not taken place, all is polluted. Clear up the pollution, and eventually there will be spontaneous clarity, even without attempting to achieve clarity. Only then will the gold pill come out of the furnace. When there is no self in the mind, it is even and clear. When the spirit is pure and the energy clear, this is Buddhahood and immortality. It is only because the iron pillars of thoughts are deeply rooted, and it is hard to escape their limitations, that it is necessary to observe one's own mind. When you see the mind, only then will you find the roots are insubstantial and thus have a sense of freedom from phenomena while having the ability to enter their range. The primal and temporal are originally not two. What makes the distinction is only temporal. When you discriminate, then action and stillness are not united, and primal energy becomes conditioned. When they are united, temporal energy is also primal, and there is no distinction between primal and temporal. If there is discrimination between primal and temporal, that is just consciousness. If you discriminate, then conditioning flares up, and this is the source of the profuse confusion of thoughts. What cannot be spoken and cannot be named is the generative energy, which is the substance of the way. When the substance is established, the function operates. When people are deluded by emotions and do not know there is essence, they are ordinary ignoramuses. If they know there is essence but do not know that there are emotions, this is senseless vacuity. Therefore, our teaching is actively living and does not settle into one corner, but instead applies to heaven and earth, combines eternity with the present, equalizes others and self, and has neither enemy nor familiar. It is said that we are the same in essence but different in feeling. There is no difference in feeling either. It is just the habits develop unnoticed, evolving in a stream, continuing to the present, so that their defiling influence cannot be shed. Ultimately, this is not the fault of essence. The great way is not in quiet living. If you stay quietly in a room, that has the counter effect of increasing the flames of fire in the heart. It is necessary to be working on the way, whatever you're doing, in order to be able to sit on the summit of 1,000 mountains without leaving the crossroads. Consciousness is knowledge. In ordinary people, it is called consciousness. In immortals and Buddhas, it is called knowledge. The only distinction between purity and impurity. The cognizing in the consciousness is the eternal. The consciousness is non-cognizing is wisdom. If you arouse a discriminatory, galloping mind, this is routine, and you become an ordinary mortal. How can you find purity in the mind? It is just a matter of seeking out purity in the midst of impurity. Then, when you discover signs of impurity in the midst of purity, you have now found purity. The true mind has no form. What has form is ultimately illusory. Is the true mind to be sought from the source of mind? If the source is clean, then the celestial design is apparent, and daily activities never obstruct the supreme way. If the source is not clean, then even if you have some vision, it is like a lamp in the wind, flickering erratically. What we call the true mind is the enlightened, clear mind. Therefore, it can pervade the heavens and permeate the earth without the slightest artificiality. When mind is empty, yet not vacant, this is called true emptiness. When mind is there but not reified, this is called subtle existence. Don't tarry on one side and you then enter the middle way. Then you have a basis for gaining access to virtue. The way is present before our eyes. What is before our eyes is hard to understand. People like the unusual and enjoy the new. They miss what is right in front of their eyes and do not know where the way is. The way is the immediate presence. If you are unaware of the immediate presence, then your mind races, your intellect runs, and you go on thinking compulsively. All this is due to shallowness of spiritual power, and shallowness of spiritual power is due to racing in the mind. End of reading. Like, share, and subscribe.